Hello, this is Mcd the Beast, and this is Mcd Sports4 coming to you today with my preseason top 25 for college football. Before I continue, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Please subscribe to your channel. I greatly appreciate if you do that. We're really trying to grow the channel, so go ahead and do that. So every year on August 1st for college football, I come out with my top 25. And I am releasing it right now, my preseason top 25 for college football. This is basically my top 25. Basically, how I feel the top 25 should be going into the preseason, into week 1 or week 0, whenever college football is going to start. Because it looks like Oklahoma is trying to play that August 29th game or that August 29th week in week 0 as of right now. I know some leagues aren't starting to September 26th, so we'll see what happens. It looks like we are going to get college football. I know I came out with a video like a week or two ago saying I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's 50-50 that it happens. I hate saying the term 50-50 because either way I'm right or wrong, but I think it's 50-50 right now that it happens. We'll see what happens. But here is my preseason top 25 for college football. We'll start off with 1 through 5. I'll just go through 1 through 25, say something about each team. Quick thoughts. I did prediction videos before I stopped doing them because of the uncertainty of the college football season. I did preview videos team by team for all these teams. So if you want my true thoughts about them, just go on the channel, look at those videos. You'll enjoy them. So let's start off with 1 through 5. At number 1, I have Clemson. I think Clemson's the best team going into this college football season. Listen, I know Justin Ross, that's going to be a big miss right there at wide receiver. That's going to be a big loss. But I think this team's the best team in college football, the Clemson Tigers. They, in my opinion, are the best team. Number 2, Ohio State. I do think J.K. Dobbins for Ohio State is going to be a big-time loss. I know they have running backs that could fill the void there. But you could tell if you were watching this team last season, I think you came away saying J.K. Dobbins was the best player on that team offensively. And I think it's going to be a big loss. I do think there is an argument that they could be the top team going into this season. Or they could be the top team a few weeks into the season because Clemson's in the ACC, Ohio State's in the Big Ten. But overall, I got to pick them too. I just think Clemson's a bit better than them. But I'm going to go with Ohio State at number 2. Number 3, Alabama. Alabama, in my opinion, is going to be on a redemption tour after last year. Last year was the worst case scenario for them, 10-2. I think this year they're going to be on a redemption tour, and I think they are a top 5 team in college football. I think Nick Saban is the top coach in college football, and I think talent-wise they're top 5. And overall, I think Alabama. I think they're the 3rd best team in college football. Number 4, I put LSU. You might think that's a bit too rich, a bit too high. But LSU, I know they lose a lot, but I still think they're going to be a pretty damn good team. I really do. I mean, I'll say right now, if you give me a 9.5, over under and win totals, I would take the over for LSU. I think they're winning at least 10 games this year, and I think they're the 4th best team in college football. I really do. Talent-wise, I know they lose a lot, but they have a lot of talent. Number 5, Georgia. Listen, Georgia is one of those teams you can tell they are gunning for this year. I mean, that team is set up to win this year, win the whole thing. We'll see if they could do that. Pick them number 5. Maybe a bit underachieving the past year or two, but I think they're going to do pretty good again this year. I think they're going to be at least a top 5 team, around the top 5 this year, the Georgia Bulldogs. So that's 1 through 5 in the Mcd Sports4 top 25. Here's 6 through 10. Number 6, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, I think defense is still a question mark, but offensively, I think Spencer Rattler is going to be a very good quarterback. And I do feel like Oklahoma is going to be competing for the college football playoffs yet again. Number 7, Oregon. Oregon, in my opinion, they're the best team in the Pac-12. Granted, I think offensively with the quarterback, we'll see what happens there. But I think defensively they're very good. I think Mario Cristobal is a very good head coach. I have them as my 7th best team going into this year. Number 8, Notre Dame. Notre Dame to me is the best Tier 2 team in college football. I don't think they're a college football playoff contender. They're carcassing with the ACC this year. They dropped their schedule. Speaking about dropping schedules, I need to wait for the days to align to give you my official ACC predictions. The Pac-12 already dropped a schedule with aligned dates, so expect a Pac-12 prediction video out this week. But Notre Dame, I think they're the best Tier 2 team. I think they'll hover around the top 10. I picked them number 8 because I do think they are I do think they're better than every team under them. And I do think they are the 8th best team in college football. Number 9, Florida. A lot of people are very high on Florida. A few people think they could actually win the whole thing this year. I would pump the brakes on that, honestly, winning the whole thing. Maybe winning the SEC East. I think that's a real possibility. I picked them 9, though. I can't completely trust Florida. That's what it comes down to. I just can't completely trust them. I don't think they're completely there yet. If you watch my Florida preview, I sat there and said I actually think they're closer to Tennessee than they are Georgia. I stand by that statement. If you look at the talent, because all you gotta do is look at recruiting, and that's my argument right there. But I do think they are a borderline top 10 team. I picked them 9. Because I think they're better than every team below them. But we'll see what happens this year. I'll tell you this, Georgia-Florida is going to be a big game this year. Number 10, Penn State. Penn State is a team, I think they're a bit of a dark horse to make the college football playoffs. I don't know if they're a national championship contender just yet. But overall, I do think that Penn State, they're a borderline top 10 team. I put them at 10. Primarily because of their talent. Overall, Penn State should be a team to at least compete with Ohio State like they did last year. So that's 6 through 10. Here's 11 through 15. Number 11, Oklahoma State. I am really high on Oklahoma State. You might think this is a bit too high for me to pick them as. I know Phil Steele, I'm going to mention him with these next 2 teams. I know he picked Oklahoma State at 24. I think that's actually a bit too low. I think if everything goes right for Oklahoma State, they could win the Big 12. I'm dead serious when I say that. I think they are the second best team in the Big 12 going into this year. I picked them at number 11, and I think they are the 11th best team in college football. I really do. Number 12, Texas A&M. I always have trouble saying A&M for some reason. I make slur on that. Sorry about that. But I think they're the 12th best team. I know some people are very high on them, like Phil Steele, who has a number 5 in his preseason poll. I think that's a bit too high. I think they're borderline top 10 at the best, honestly. And listen, if you watch that preview, the Texas A&M preview, I do think they go into Tuscaloosa with 1 loss. I really do. But at the same time, I do think their back end of the schedule is very tough, and I feel like they're going to kind of choke a little bit on that back end. But I do think they are the 12th best team in college football. Talent-wise, they are very deep. So we'll see what happens. But I know a lot of people are saying 2020 was the year for Texas A&M. We'll see what happens with the all-SEC schedule. Number 13, Texas. Texas is a team, I kind of put them here by default. I don't really think they're that good. I think you're going to see them drop some in the polls, even if it's just Big 12 play. Overall, I do think that Texas, they're a good enough team to, in my opinion, to compete for the Big 12, but that's just about it. I know Sam Ehlinger, he is a bit of an overrated quarterback. Tom Herman's not that good of a coach. But overall, I do think they're like a top 15-ish team, so that's why I picked them at number 13. Number 14, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a team, I do think Jonathan Taylor is a big loss, but they always seem to find a running back that can run the ball all day long against any defense. That offensive line is pretty good. I think the quarterback Coon is going to take a step forward. And Phil Chris is the most underrated coach this year in the whole country. And definitely going into this year. That's what I thought I was going to say, but I had to correct myself. But Phil Chris, most underrated coach in the country. I think they're going to compete this year for the Big Ten. I really do. Number 15, Auburn. Listen, Auburn's kind of a wild card in my opinion. I think they're a top 25 team. I don't know exactly how good of a team they're going to be, though. They might be one of these teams that kind of hover around 20 through 25. They might be a team that could possibly get into the top 10. I don't think they're a college football playoff contender. But I picked them at 15. Kind of a safe spot for them. I think they're borderline top 15, but overall, I think they're one of the most interesting teams to watch this year. We'll see how they do in the All SEC schedule. Here's 16 through 20. Number 16, Minnesota. Now, I know Minnesota fans watching this might say, well, we beat Auburn last year. This is going to this season. Minnesota just loses a bit too much for me defensively to put them in the top 15. Offensively, I think they're very good. PJ Fleck, I think, is a very good head coach, but I just think they lose a bit too much defensively. I think they will compete, however, for the Big Ten West and possibly for the Big Ten. If you watch my Minnesota football prediction video, go check that out if you haven't already. If you're a Minnesota fan, I think you'll be pretty pleased with what I said about Minnesota. Number 17, USC. USC is a team, I think they're a top 25 team, but I don't know how good they really are because they're going to be playing a Pac-12 schedule. And let me tell you something, if you watch the USC football prediction video, I had them doing very well in the Pac-12, but very bad out of conference. So I actually think the record is going to be good, but I don't know exactly if they're going to be a so-called very good team in people's eyes because they're in the Pac-12. So I picked them at number 17 because I do think they're a top 25 team. Number 18, Michigan. Michigan is a team, I'm going to be honest with you, I figured them out. I think they're a pretty good team. I don't think they're good enough to compete against Ohio State. And it's because of depth. Some people will argue because of different reasons. It's a depth issue there. That's why Michigan can't compete with Ohio State. But overall, they're still a top 20 team, Michigan. I mean, I picked them 18. You might think that might be a bit disrespectful, but I've seen polls as having them as high as like 12, 13, 14. I picked them 18. I just don't think they are a team that could really compete with the big boys in the top 10 or maybe even in the top 12, top 15. So I picked them I'll say that they could compete with some of those teams in the top 10. Top 12, top 15, not all of them. So I think they're a top 25 team. I think Jim Harbaugh is a good coach. I picked them 18. Number 19, North Carolina. I'm very high on this team. I think Matt Brown has the team gearing in the right direction. The quarterback is very good there. Defensively, I think they take a step forward this year. Overall, I think North Carolina is a top 25 team. I wish they were playing Clemson in their ACC schedule. Their toughest game is Notre Dame, so we'll see what happens. But overall, North Carolina, in my opinion, they're a top 25 school. And then up at 20, the first group of 5 school. Rule with me is I always try to include at least 2 group of 5 teams in my top 25, give or take. I know that some weeks it's kind of tough to do that. But in the preseason poll, I think we could find a few teams that could be top 25 teams. And Cincinnati is a top 25 team. Every poll should have Cincinnati in it. I picked them at number 20. Their non-con schedule was actually pretty respectable. Games that I thought were very winnable for them. The American, they said they're going to play some out-of-conference games this year. I honestly would like to see the American play a 10-game conference schedule with 11 teams to just have a round robin. And 2 best teams play in the American Championship game. Whoever wins that game is the American champion. But we'll see what happens. But Cincinnati, in my opinion, is the 20th best team in college football. They are really heading in the right direction. So here's 21 through 25. 21's Memphis. I still think Memphis is a good team. I know Mike Norvell, the head coach, went to Florida State. But I still think they're a very good team. That schedule was tough overall. We'll see how the new schedule is. America has not come out with their new schedule. No group of 5 school has come out with their new schedule. But overall, I still think talent-wise, team-wise, they're still a top 25 team. They didn't really lose a lot from last season. Number 22, Arizona State. I am very high on Arizona State. I like the quarterback there a lot. He's young. I think he's gonna take a major step forward this year. Jalen Henderson. I like Herman Edwards a lot. I think he's a pretty good coach. I think he proved a lot of people wrong. I thought he was going to do okay there at Arizona State. I didn't think he was going to be really anything special, but he may be building something special. I think defense takes a step forward. It was a very young team last year. I think this team takes a step forward. I do think they're a top 25 team. I put them at number 22. Number 23, Iowa State. Iowa State's a top 25 team. I think they're somewhere in that 20 to 25 range. Put them right in the middle at 23. Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. Matt Campbell is a good head coach. They play defense at that school, one of the only Big 12 schools that actually do that. So overall, I really like what I see from Iowa State. I think they are a top 25 school. Number 24, Boise State. This team last year very quietly went ahead and went 11-2, 11-1, and well, actually, excuse me, 12-2. They went 12-2, 12-1 in the regular season if you include the conference championship game. And I think you're going to see something similar this year. Boise State, in my opinion, is a team that I think they're going to win through the Mountain West if it's a conference-only schedule. I think really the only team in the Mountain West that could give them trouble is really Air Force. I know Hawaii is a decent team as well in the Mountain West, but I really think Air Force is the only team that could really give them some trouble. But overall, I do think Boise State, they're a top 25 team. I think that quarterback, Hank Bockheimer, I know last year he was kind of banged up. I think he takes a step forward this year. True freshman last year. And I think they're a top 25 team. I picked them number 24. And then number 25, I could go on with a lot of different teams here. I know a lot of people are picking Iowa or UCF in the top 25 as either the 24th or 25th best team. Iowa, I just think loses a bit too much, and I think people are paying them at number 25 honestly because of respect of the head coach Kirk Ferentz, which is fine, but we don't do that here at Mcd Sports4. We are fair and neutral. And UCF, they just got to prove it to me a little bit, and then I'll throw them in my top 25. But I do think both of those teams are borderline top 25 teams. But I picked Tennessee, and the reason why I picked Tennessee is because I like the momentum going into this season, winning all those games. I think he won 6-7 straight games at the end of last season going into this season, and I really think they are going to be a lot better than what they were last year. And listen, the record might not completely show that. They might only have a 1 or 2 game improvement with the record, but I do believe if you watch them, like last year, they lost to Georgia State, BYU. I don't think you're going to see that this year. Granted, it's an SEC only schedule, so we'll see who they go up against. I'm sure that they got to go up against Bama, Georgia, Florida. We'll see who else they get out of the West, but I do think this team, I think they're going to be competitive-wise, they're going to be a lot better. I actually like the direction Jeremy Pruitt's putting this team in. I like the direction he's taking them in. We'll see what he does, but I picked them as the 25th best team in college football. It was a tough choice, but I went with Tennessee. So let's look at the teams that just missed the cut. Louisville just missed the cut. I'm very high on Louisville, but I just couldn't bring myself to it. Iowa, UCF, I already mentioned that. Washington, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Washington. I think they're going to surprise some people this year. Virginia Tech, I know some people have Virginia Tech as high as like 18 in some national polls. I pretty much disagree with that. I think they are a borderline top 25 team at best. As I said, Justin Fournette, he's just a good enough coach. He's a good enough coach to keep that team treading water, and I think you're going to see that this year. Baylor, I know they lose a lot, but they still have the quarterback Charlie Brewer, and I like their head coach. Cal, a lot of people are high on them. They kind of have to prove it to me a little bit. Appalachian State, they're going to have to win some games. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with them. Are they only going to play a 9-game schedule? I'm going to be completely honest with you. Appalachian State might be 6-0, 7-0 in a conference-only schedule. But they might also not be ranked because they're facing a bunch of Sun Belt teams. Air Force, I'm very high on Air Force, but in my opinion, Boise State's just a bit better. But Air Force is definitely a team to keep your eye on. And then Indiana, that's a team to keep your eye on as well, Indiana. The quarterback Penix is very good. I think they might have the best team they had in 25, 30 years, Indiana. So we'll see what happens. But overall, I do think these are the teams to keep an eye on to possibly make the top 25 in week 2 in case 21 through 25 loses. A rule with me is usually if you're 21 through 25 and if you lose, you're usually out of the pool that following week. Or unless it's like something that I feel like you guys don't deserve to be dropped. But overall, that is my top 25. Comment down below. Tell me your top 25 going into this season. I always like to hear different top 25s. Also, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to your channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. Mcd the Beast signing off.